reaction. Now we can speak to Ricky Sachs from the Last Word on Spurs podcast. Thanks for joining us bright and early, Ricky. Good to have you on the show. Listen, I know that the view is going to vary across the board, but in general, what's the feeling from Spurs fans? Do you think this is the right decision to part ways?
Yeah, I think ultimately it is the right decision to part ways with Antonio Conte. I've said it so many times on Last Word on Spurs that right manager, wrong club, wrong board, and it's a real shame it hasn't worked out. I think so many of us wanted this to work. I think Spurs were going to change, well, we were hoping Spurs were going to change their ways and enable Antonio Conte to be successful at Tottenham like he has done elsewhere. But I think Spurs are severely lacking any real direction of what they want to be. And that's what they need to make their mind up now as to what they want to do next. Do they want to be a club that are looking for a project, or are they looking for a win-now manager who they're actually going to genuinely give the tools to win now?
Well, it looks like the permanent successor will have to wait until the summer because it's Christian Stellini who's been given the role in an interim charge. What do you think about that? A couple of points here. Stellini was Conte's man for a start. They had Ryan Mason in interim charge previously. Chris Powell is there, who's got more experience as a manager than both of them, and he's been with the England setup as well. So what was your reaction when you heard that Stellini was there till the end of the season?
Yeah, I've got to be honest with you and say again, it's really muddled thinking by Tottenham, and that are almost now trying to find their way through to the end of the season without any real lack of a plan, without any real lack of direction. And I fail to see how appointing and promoting Conte's second in charge is going to get the most out of these players in these next 10 games for Tottenham to secure Champions League football. I would love to be wrong. I think when Stellini came in the absence of Conte, we saw an immediate lift from some of the players and some of the performances. But we can't forget Stellini did oversee the defeat to Wolves. He oversaw the horrendous cup exit to Sheffield United. So I've got to be honest and say to you that I'm really, disappointed, but not surprised by that announcement from Tottenham. Clearly, they want to wait till the summer in order to try and get their man. And my God, I've got to say, they've got to get it right, because how many more opportunities is this ball going to get to try and appease a fan base that have been so patient in the quest for trophies, so patient in the quest for being competitive and to be successful. And I've got to say that as Spurs fans, we deserve so much better than this. You know, we pay the highest in ticket prices in the country. And for that alone, we deserve at least to see a brand of football that is watchable. And I think, again, for what we've got in terms of players there, we've got, as you said, Harry Kane, that needs his future to be resolved. You've got Fabio Paratigi's future that is up in the air. There's just so many elements of Tottenham at the moment that need to be resolved. And ultimately, for the fans, they're the ones that are ultimately suffering at the moment.
OK, you talk about the right man coming in the summer, Ricky. Two leading names to take over at the moment. Let's start with Julian Nagelsmann. He's just left Bayern Munich. We know that he's open to talks as well. Do you think he'd be a good fit?
Well, he's a man that is a long-term manager that is more of a project that I think would be more suitable for the board at Tottenham, rather than going for a win-now manager if they're not prepared to give them the win-now tools. That's what I've said all the time. You know, if you're not willing to give Mourinho, Conte the tools to win, then go back to a project and actually back the manager long-term, give him a 4 or 5 year contract. I think, again, the only concern with Nagelsmann is that he does lack Premier League experience. That's not me playing him down. That's not me saying he might not be a good Premier League manager one day. But ultimately, as you guys know, you're always taking a risk with a manager that isn't Premier League proven. But a manager that has obviously got clear philosophy and identity that hopefully would work for Tottenham in the long term, should they want to go down that route.
Nagelsmann, do you think that the reason why he is not taking the job right now, let's say Tottenham want Nagelsmann and they want him to take the job now, do you think he would be biding his time thinking, well, I'm only taking that job if they're in the Champions League? And if so, that makes these next 10 games even more important if, he is their first choice.
Yeah, great point. I mean, absolutely. I think there also is speculation that there might actually be some form of a transfer fee in order to have to get Nagelsmann right in the door firmly now. So I think Spurs, in the situation they're in, naturally they want to do their due diligence. I'd like to think the board do recognise that the next appointment is going to be really important and has to be crucially right. But I've said that time and time again here on Sky Sports News, on Last Word on Spurs, and ultimately we've seen so many times a manager being failed under, you know, the current ownership, which is a real shame. I think, again, for what they've done off the field in terms of the stadium and the training ground, if we saw that same effort and application when it comes to on-pitch matters, I think we'd all be content. But I think you're going to ask me about Mauricio Pochettino, another man that's quite similar to the way in which Nagelsmann likes to plan out for the future. Pochettino's obviously been here before. He knows the board. He knows what they like. He knows how to work with them. I think, listen, he loves the football club. There's no doubt about that. He loves the fans. And, Mauricio, to some degree, would be a really, really good fit. I know they say never go back, but I think what you would know with Mauricio is you know what you're getting. You're getting a brand of football that is watchable, that's exciting. My only concern is there's still 8 or 9 players there that were under Mauricio's reign before. So I'd love to know if enough has changed for Mauricio to feel he can have that impact. But whoever comes in next, and I say this because I genuinely mean it, we've got the best fans in the world, in my opinion, that travel home and away each week, and they outsing all those fans when they're away from home. They're incredible fans, but we do need to be patient for whoever that next manager is. Give them time, give them a plan, give them backing, give them 4 or 5 years of a contract and actually let them build something. Because ultimately in Spurs is, I wouldn't say that word success because we haven't won trophies, but in the time in which Spurs have enjoyed, and as fans have enjoyed seeing Spurs play, it's been when there's actually been a clear plan and philosophy of what Tottenham want to try and do. And I think ultimately we have to go back to that route if we as fans are going to unite and try and move forward together.
Ricky, I've been throwing in the name Carlo Ancelotti because the speculation he might go in the summer from Real Madrid. Are there any other names that come into your mind apart from Pochettino and Nagelsmann?
I mean, they're the two that are the leading front men at the moment. I've got to be honest, I know there's been a couple of other names being thrown in. Sergio Concentrao's another, Marco Silva, Roberto De Zerbi. For me at the moment, I think Spurs need to identify from the board what they want. That they need to understand what they want. And until we know what the board want, then it's all very much fuzzle thinking because we need to have a plan. We need to have clear direction. We need to know what Spurs want to be. Until we know what we want to be, then we're always going to be in the cycle that we are every 18 to 24 months. As Conte said it in his final interview, you can keep on changing the manager, but ultimately the players, we have to take a huge amount of responsibility. Some of these players, they've seen off a 4th manager. That is simply unacceptable. And I think everybody's culpable for blame at Spurs, from the chairman to the managers to the players. And the ones that suffer the most are the fans. And that is what's got to change. We deserve so much more as fans. Listen, there's wonderful fans wherever you go in football, but Spurs fans have been incredibly loyal, passionate and supporting their team despite the lack of success on the pitch. And I think as fans, we deserve that for what we've given to the football club. And hopefully, whoever that next appointment may be, they'll be given the time and be given the love by the fans, because ultimately that's what we want. Let's enjoy the football again. Let's just enjoy going to watch Spurs again, which we haven't had that feeling for quite some time.